Lady Justice used to stand so tall, blindfold on, she'd hear us all. Rich or poor didn't matter then, truth would speak, justice would win. But somewhere along this winding road, the scales grew heavy and the system slowed down. Money talks and power plays while victims wait for better days. Where has justice gone? Where did she flee? The blindfold slipping. Now we see the game is rigged, the deck is stacked for those who can't fight back. Where has justice gone? Predators get off easy while families mourn what can't be fixed. The courtroom doors swing both ways, but not for those who can't pay. We must fight for those we've lost, count every tear, pay every price. Stand tall when systems fail, seeking truth behind the veil. Where has justice gone? Where did she flee? The blindfold slipping. Now we see the game is rigged, the deck is stacked for those who can't fight back. But where has justice gone? Protect the innocent, protect the child, no matter race or creed or color, rich or poor, it shouldn't matter. Justice is what we're after for all. Affluence can't buy a free pass when children's safety is what we ask. Every child deserves the same protection in justice' name. From the courthouse to the highest court, justice feels like a last resort. But we won't stop, we won't give in until justice lives again. We'll bring justice home. Make her see that equal treatment. The key, fix the scale, straighten the stack for those who can't fight back. We'll bring justice home. Lady Justice, hear our call. Stand for one, stand for all. Put the blindfold back in place. Give us truth, give us grace.
Live on the air, it's Trial Junkies United with your host, Z.
Buddy, I'm so glad you guys are here. Sleuthy Sweetheart, Pammy, and Irish Amy and Fala and Lazy River. We're going to have a good night. I hope I didn't miss anybody. So I thought we'd do something a little different. Pammy says hi, Doc.
Hi.
So greetings to the truth seekers and justice warriors tonight. I'm Z, your storyteller in the wilderness of injustice. And my ride or die Doc is riding shotgun as we navigate the darkness where the predators hunt and the system fails. How are you doing, Doc? Are you ready to ride?
I'm always ready.
I know you are, darling. Well, I thought we would shine a light on the forgotten stories society wants us to leave buried, but buckle up because the path ahead, it might be bumpy, and we're going through another section of this nightmare they call the justice system. But I thought we'd check out an international case in Switzerland because injustice knows no borders, and the Swiss system's reputation for precision makes its failures all the more striking. Today, we're diving into one of Switzerland's most controversial murder cases, the Kerstadts murder of 1985. And this case has everything: a body in a freezer, Hawaiian toast, constitutional doubt, and a justice system that nearly collapsed under media pressure. But more importantly, this case raises fundamental questions about burden of proof, circumstantial evidence, and what happens when in dubio pro reo, when in doubt, favor the accused, meets public outrage. Okay? I thought it would be kind of fun because everybody likes to come and hear about our cases. Any mistakes in any of the story are mine because I was having to get translations from over there. And they don't do a lot of pictures, so I'm going to do my best with what we've got. But here we go. Hellcat, thanks for joining us, darling. This is Christine Zwahlen. And on Swiss National Day, 1985, and of course, it's another 1985, which reminds us of Katrina's aunt, Catherine Katrina Maurer, because she also was murdered in 1985. And I think that's why this one caught my interest. But it was Swiss National Day in 1985. Families across Switzerland are celebrating. They have fireworks and there's festivals. And Christine Zwahlen's adoptive parents made a discovery. And that discovery was going to change their world forever. In the basement of her home, in the freezer, they found their daughter's body. They saw something they should never have to see. Now, they had adopted Christina when she was 8 months old. So they had also adopted their other daughter because they were unable to have children. So these girls meant a lot to them, and they lived very close. So 6 days earlier, on July 26th, okay, Christine Zwahlen had vanished from the small towns of Christstadt near Bern. It's about 5 miles away from Bern, Switzerland. Her husband, Bruno, is a 27-year-old plumbing draftsman and claimed she'd left on her moped Saturday morning. She was going to go shop in Bern for the upcoming sailing trip that they had planned. Now, she was really excited about this vacation. So he told the police she never came home, though. So what made this discovery even more devastating was the chain of events that led Paul and Alice Utter to their daughter's basement that August morning. For 6 agonizing days, they had lived in distress because Christina was missing. Put yourself there. Your daughter's missing for 6 days. Nobody can find her. They had lived like this 6 long days, and they were already growing suspicious of Bruno. They did not really care for Bruno. He was not, they were very religious. He was not. And so that was one of the things they kind of did not care for about him. And they lived very close, and they had noticed that he was no longer friendly with them as before the marriage. And his frequent absences hadn't escaped their notice. They suspected that he had another partner and he was cheating on her. And this is Catherine's home. or Christina's home that she had with Bruno. And then came Bruno's shocking confession on Swiss National Day. Now, remember, this is 6 days after his wife is missing. Supposedly, nobody knows where they're at. He did report her missing. He casually reveals that he did indeed have a girlfriend, his third extramarital affair in just 2 years. Okay? Yeah, we don't talk about Bruno. And unfortunately, he told them he had to leave because he was invited to her parents' house for their National Day celebration. So his wife is missing, but he tells the in-laws, yeah, well, it's been 6 days. She's missing. I got to go because my girlfriend's family's having a party. Yeah. Okay. Now, this girlfriend was from a well-off Bernese family, and they were considered this a first-class match for him. Okay. As if that isn't devastating enough, he also announced that he was going to be moving out by May of the following year. Interesting. And the callousness of how he told them, it was just breathtaking because their daughter was been missing for a week, and Bruno was going to celebrate Switzerland's most important holiday with another woman's family, and he was planning his escape to a new life. So that day, they decide to go over and search the house for clues. Alice, they're in the attic, they're in the rooms, they're looking everywhere. Alice goes over to the freezer and opens the lid, revealing a bare, hard bottom with ice crystals already growing on the surface. Christina's legs were bound with nylon cord. She was frozen upside down in a mobile lump of ice in the main freezer compartment. Her face wasn't visible because there had been a gray garbage bag that a lot of people in Switzerland, you had these kind of gray garbage bags over her, what they eventually found was her blood-stained head, and it was tied at the neck. Apparently to catch, the blood because there were skull injuries. Their 24-year-old daughter was naked, beaten to death, and had been stored like a piece of frozen food. Later, Alice would say, "We were in such distress. She'd been missing for 6 days," she testified. After Bruno left for the girlfriend's family barbecue, the distraught parents went to Christina's house, filled with dark fear and desperate to find any trace of their daughter. They searched that apartment, attic, basement, and then she went into that laundry room where the freezer was. They said her screams brought the entire neighborhood running. In front of the court, she tearfully said, "Then I thought once it thought, the child might live again." Because she was, she just wasn't thinking. Now, Christina was a seamstress who friends described as friendly, affectionate, loyal, and warm, someone who practically worshiped her husband, Bruno.
Oh, yuck.
Yeah, we're going to call him Bags of Muffins. That's what he is. A bag of muffin. And she'd been murdered just as she was about to lose him anyway. Christina, who sat obediently in her small tailor shop, Altier Christine, because she had her own little shop, sewing on these evenings when Bruno was out with other women. Moldy muffin. Yeah, he is moldy muffins. And she never knew it was going to cost her everything. This time, they're as cruel as the crime itself, because while her body was laying frozen in their basement, he's out celebrating with another woman's family, playing the role of that grieving husband while planning his future without the wife who was in the freezer at home. And this is Bags of Muffins, moldy muffins. We'll call them moldy muffins. I kind of like that, Pammy.
Butt hit.
But
Butt hit.
But in fact, Bruno claimed on Saturday, July 27th, he said Christina left on her moped Saturday morning to go shopping in Bern for the upcoming sailing trip. Now, there was a witness that said she was certain she had seen Christina on the moped that morning, supporting Bruno's account. The moped was found at the train station in Wabern, near Bern. Christina was supposedly going to meet Bruno at Café Feller, but never arrived. Bruno claimed he was also going to meet her there, but witnesses never saw him at the cafe either. So, got some issues here. And when Moldy Muffins was arrested on August 1st at his girlfriend's family barbecue, he was carrying Christine's moped license in his possession. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
She disappeared with her license and hadn't come home. The prosecution found this suspicious and why he would have her moped license if he'd driven away if she'd gone on her moped. Now, the moped being found, that could support the theory that either she parked it there to take the train into Bern, which would have been Bruno's story, or Muffin Head, or Moldy Muffins, yeah.
Holy muffin. Yeah.
Moldy Muffin, or that someone else moved it there to stage her disappearance. Now, the prosecution's motive was straightforward but compelling. Okay, financial freedom. Bruno wanted to divorce Christine, but avoid the consequences of what it would cost him. He was also the beneficiary of her life insurance policy. Tick, another one.
Mm-hmm.
Social climbing. His girlfriend came from a very affluent, well-connected family, a significant step from his current situation. Religious conflict. Christina's adoptive parents were devout evangelical Baptists who disapproved of Bruno, and he refused to join their religious community, creating ongoing tension. Multiple affairs. This wasn't Bruno's first extramarital relationship. He had 3 other affairs in only 2 years of marriage to Christine. So the prosecution was going to argue that Bruno saw murder as the easier than divorce, especially with the upcoming sailing trip, where an accident might have been harder to stage convincingly. So
But wait a minute. He thought it would be easier to throw her in the freezer than to try and okay, this doesn't he just doesn't make sense.
well, ask yourself, was he going to go sailing anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Was he going to move the body? We don't know. So it's a circumstantial case.
Yep.
It's strong, but circumstantial. Now, the physical evidence that they found was there were bloodstains on the marital bed, the mattress, and on the washing machine. Bruno's fingerprints are on the garbage bag roll used to cover Christina's head, but they were also the garbage bags they used, right? Okay. Christina's moped license was in his possession when he was arrested. So that's the big, hey, flashing light there. The nylon cord remnants found in the bedroom during a second search, because they went back and searched the house. They found the nylon cords that had been used to tie her up. They found the remnants in the house. And what about behavioral evidence? Bruno was seen cleaning the basement on July 27th, the day after Christina allegedly disappeared.
That's not suspicious.
Yeah, especially since they found blood in the on the washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
He had revealed his affair to the parents on August 1st, announcing he'd move out by May 1986. Now, his claim about waiting at the Cafe Feller never could be verified. No witnesses saw him. And in fact, the parking zone that he claimed to have used didn't exist in 1985. So, eventually they said maybe he was at the gas station in Kurtz when he claimed to be setting his parking disc. So we have some timeline issues here. And that's something to think about. Now, this is interesting. This is the map of Switzerland. And the one thing I found interesting is there are 4 different languages that are spoke. German is the red, and that's where Bern is. So their family, they spoke German. They might have spoke multiple languages, but this was the main language in that part of Switzerland. The blue is for French. Italian is the green, and then Romish is the yellow. And that's actually the closest they say to ancient Latin as you can get. Hey, therapist, glad you're here. Hey, Verqua, glad you joined us, darling. But so I just thought it was interesting. I'm sorry, I might go down a couple of rabbit holes because I love history and I love learning new things. And so I'm sharing. I hope you enjoy it. Because, Doc has to put up with me when I have to share stuff with him. So what can I say?
But I love you.
I know. And I love you too, baby. So Bruno and Christine were in the house during this critical time frame. Yeah, Irish Amy's with me, my little sister. She likes to learn stuff too. So the victim's parents, they had alibis and were ruled out as suspects. Now, this is where things are going to get messy because the evidence that actually did convict Bruno in 1987 fell apart under scrutiny. There was the Hawaiian toast fiasco. This was the most damaging evidence. And the forensic report claiming because Bruno told Moldy Muffin told them she had eaten Friday evening and she had eaten some Hawaiian toast. But the report claiming Christine's stomach contents contained Hawaiian toast, which was cheese, pineapple, and bread, was wrong. There was a problem because Moldy Muffin suggested it might have been pear instead of pineapple. And then the Forensic Institute suddenly found pear too. So the lead forensic pathologist was later suspended for this and other questionable practices. Okay, so the evidence on this toast became a big issue. And they had an independent analysis in Munich. Forensics expert Wolfgang Eisenmenger and Wolfgang Spann found neither cheese, pineapple, nor pear in Christina's stomach contents. She had died within 1 hour of eating a small meal, not the Friday night timeline that the prosecution needed. So that's interesting. Now, witness testimony. A witness claimed to have seen Christine on her moped Saturday morning, supporting Bruno's version of events, but the testimony got dismissed by the original court. Then we're going to talk about a saddler. A saddler is someone who works with leather goods. There was a witness that claimed, a female witness, that, and this happened because he gets tried twice, you guys. So she says, because he gets convicted the first time and sentenced to life, but then he gets out. And at the second trial, this female witness said that a saddler from Kristan had told her that Moldy Muffin had come to his shop and July 27th asked, "How do you remove bloodstains from a mattress?" However, the saddler himself completely denied it. He said Bruno never came to his shop. He never told the witness anything of the sort. Well, the prosecutor was so upset over this, Mateus, that he went ahead and charged the saddler with perjury, believing that he was lying to protect Moldy Muffin. But the saddler was ultimately acquitted of perjury charges on July 7th of 1997, because the documents referred to this as the so-called saddler trial. And note that Mateus refused to accept the diametrical contradiction between what the witness claimed and the saddler told them versus what the saddler actually said happened. And this was really a key piece of evidence that fell apart under scrutiny as to why Bruno eventually gets acquitted, you guys, of this crime. And that sounds like bad prosecuting to me, because he should have known what the saddler was going to say on the stand. "Hey, Chris," before he got on the stand, because that's one of the questions all good lawyers will say is,
one of
don't
the
ask,
first things.
Don't ask a question you don't know the answer to.
That's right.
And apparently they asked the question and they didn't get the answer they expected. And this is Bruno and his lawyers going into court. This is the first trial that was the disaster. Bruno was convicted. He was sentenced to life, but there were problems. 4 jurors ended up making an unprecedented complaint against the professional judges. Now, let me explain, because this was interesting to me. They do their court system a lot different. where we know when we have a murder trial, you have, depending on what state, because we know Florida, they're always a little different. They like to have, between 6 to 12 people on a jury, right? Well, in Switzerland, it's a little bit different, you guys. There are professional judges that work alongside what they call lay assessors or lay jurors as a unified decision-making body. So rather than having a separate jury that's going to determine guilt and innocence, the Swiss system has the citizens participate directly in the judicial panel itself. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
How decisions were made. The professional judges, and there's more than one, and the jury will listen to the evidence together during the trial. They will deliberate as a single group and not separately. They will vote together on guilt and sentencing, and they reach the decision with the mixed panel of the lay assessor or lay juror, and then the selection of who gets to be these lay assessors or jurors is the citizens' participants. They're elected or randomly selected from voter rolls, required to be a Swiss citizen with voting rights, expected to serve for an extended period of time, making it attractive to retirees, given equal voting weight with the professional judges in most cantons. And that's another thing. Instead of states, Switzerland has cantons. There's about 26 or 27. So think about that. Think of the Karen Reed trial. If it wasn't just Judge, Bev up there, Auntie Bev, if she'd had to sit there with the jurors and make decisions together, that would have been fun. So this approach is aimed to combine legal expertise from the professional judges, but with the lay assessors or lay jurors, it's a community values and common sense from the ordinary citizen. So there's efficiency by having one unified decision-making body. And so the Swiss democratic tradition is ensuring legal consistency through their professional judicial guidance. And so I thought that was really quite interesting how they do that. And so what happened? What did the lay assessors say happened during the trial? Well, they say there was massive influence on witnesses and the lay jurors or assessors. There was violation of what they call presumption of innocence. One professional judge allegedly said, "Now we've got him, the bastard," mid-trial. So, yeah, that wasn't good. And so that's why four of them took the unprecedented option to put in a complaint. And this got the attention of the media. And one of the media that got involved was a man named Hans-Peter Born. And he was a reporter. And the Swiss Federal Supreme Court rejected Moldy Muffin's constitutional appeal 5-0 in July of 1989. But then journalist Hans-Peter Born wrote a 17-part series in a magazine. I will save you from my German because I really don't have any. It's called A Clear Case. I have a hard enough time with English, guys. And exposed massive procedural flaws and investigative errors. So Hans-Peter Born got into a serious legal trouble, though, because he wrote a book. He had two books. One in 1989 called Murder in Croissants, and the other, and that one focused on criticizing the investigation and the procedures. Okay? We're not saying nothing, Pammy. We're being good. And the second book was in 1990, and it was called Accident in Croissants. And this is where Born crossed the line from journalism into dangerous territory. This second book, he put forth a theory that Christina's adoptive parents murdered their own daughter. According to his hypothesis, he had nothing to base this on. He claimed her father, Paul, got in a fit of rage because Moldy Muffins was having affairs and that he then killed her. The parents thought she was dead. They put a garbage bag over her head, suffocating her. Then they moved her body to Bruno's freezer to frame him for the murder. Now think about that. This reporter here writes this book, and he's saying that Moldy Muffins didn't get his constitutional right. Well, what is he doing to the parents? The book was immediately banned by the courts through a temporary injunction obtained by Christina's parents. Distribution was prohibited, though most of the 12,000 copies sold on the first day. Bourne later apologized to the parents and had to pay compensation. The court found the book defamatory, and there were ethical problems. As one document notes, as Bourne's criticism of the first verdict against Moldy Muffins is, he exceeded the limits imposed even on committed journalism. He won one man's freedom by destroying two others. Bourne essentially accused grieving parents of deleting their adopted daughter and framing their son-in-law, even if they genuinely believed this theory, making such accusations in a published book without solid evidence crossed ethical and legal boundaries. And he did lose his job at the newspaper.
I would think so.
Yeah. So the case really shows how the conspiratorial community formed around Moldy Muffin's defense. And it became so focused on proving his innocent, they wanted to destroy other innocent people in the case. And that's what they did to Alice and Paul.
Now, hold on a second. If fella said, did he have anything to back his story up? No, right? It was just theory.
Yeah, a hypothetical theory.
Yeah.
He just made it up.
Huh.
Wasn't that lovely? So this is crucial for understanding why Moldy Muffin was ultimately acquitted, because Swiss law operates in dubio pro reo, constitutional doubt. It means the burden of proof. The prosecution has to prove guilt beyond any reasonable doubt. If irresolvable doubt remains after thorough evidence is evaluated, the defendant has to be acquitted. The constitutional protection is that the principle protects against wrongful convictions based on uncertainty or suspicion. So in 1985, Switzerland, this wasn't explicitly codified in their federal constitution, but it was derived from their rule of law principles. And so presumption of innocence. And that's why that second trial in 1996, Moldy Muffins, the Court of Cassation overturned his conviction in April of 91, primarily due to the flawed forensic evidence. Now, Switzerland's Court of Cassation structure, it's a federal Supreme Court in Lausanne, Switzerland. And that's the highest cassation court. It primarily reviews legal questions and ensures uniform application of federal law. Now, many Swiss cantons or states have their own cantonal courts of cassation. These review decisions from lower courts for legal errors. So specific structure varies by canton due to the Swiss federalism. So their Supreme Court there in Lucerne, they focus on violations of federal law, constitutional rights, or serious procedural errors. Generally, they're not re-examining facts, so they're not going over the case. They're looking for errors only. And that's why they can quash a cantonal court decision and send a case back for retrial. And the review decisions from those courts, and that's what happened. They decided that there were things that did not follow procedure, and so they sent it back because they said fact versus law. Like other systems, the Swiss courts generally won't re-examine those findings, only the legal interpretation. I know, Pammy.
it looks like dried blood to me.
Yeah. So on April 14th of 93, They had a massive, for the second trial, they had massive media attention, you guys. 70 journalists were accredited to be there. 70. They had 76 witnesses that were heard. There were 5 expert opinions that were consulted. But the flawed stomach contents report was thoroughly debunked, and new forensic standards were applied to the case. And so on May 29th, 1993, as you see, Moldy Muffins walks out. He's acquitted. Innocent. Well, not innocent, just acquitted.
Mm-hmm.
Because the court found well-founded, doubts about his guilt. While the evidence was significantly incriminating, it wasn't sufficient for conviction beyond reasonable doubt. So here's what happens in the Swiss court case. It's a perfect example of how the justice system is supposed to work when it feels frustrating to us. The court looked at all the evidence and basically says, look, this guy probably did it. The evidence is against him was really strong and what they call significantly incriminating. But here's the thing. We still have some serious doubts that we just can't shake. In legal terms, they found well-founded doubts about his guilt. And that's court speak for, we're not 100% certain, and there aren't just minor technical doubts. These are real and legitimate concerns. So even though the evidence pointed toward guilt, it wasn't enough to meet the high bar of what they called beyond reasonable doubt. The criminal law requires the court essentially said, we think he probably did it, but we can't be sure enough to send him to prison. And here's actually how it should work, is what they said. It's better to let someone who might be guilty go free than to wrongfully convict someone who might be innocent. Yeah. Not if you're Christine's family.
There are judges that feel like that.
And the prosecution has to prove their case completely. I think they messed up. The defendant doesn't have to prove they're innocent. It's one of those cases where justice might feel incomplete, but the system worked exactly as designed. And then to top it off, Moldy Muffins, because he was in prison for 6 years, they compensated him 412,000 Swiss francs. Now, in 1993, that would have been equivalent to $606,000 per year. And that's $101,000 for 6 years in prison. So what that means in today's money is he would have got $1.3 million adjusted for inflation per year. So he would have got $222,000 per year to make up that $1.3 million. So, and of course, he did go back to that girlfriend, and I think they married. Isn't that lovely? I mean, that just makes you a little bit ill. And I'm thinking,
just look at his lawyer. Yeah, that's a snicker right there.
My whole thing is, what is her family thinking if they're wealthy? Why are you letting this dude around your daughter? I'm sorry. My mama would have taken him out and buried him somewhere. I can guarantee you that one.
Yeah, I don't see your parents letting me around you if I.
No, if you'd had another woman and she mysteriously passed away, no, mama would have buried you in the backyard with the others. Whoops. But the story doesn't end there with Bruno's acquittal. The prosecutor, Hans Walter Matthijs, wasn't done. In 1996, he made one last desperate attempt to get Moldy Muffins convicted. There was this Zurich lawyer. Her name was Trix Elbeling. Now, who was she? She was a nationally known lawyer. She wrote a book on this case. She's passed away now in 2005 at the age of 50, but here's what her role became in this. Now, she was not his defense lawyer, Ebling interested herself in this case without assignment or without necessity, you guys. It intrigued her. And so when he got acquitted, she started investigating. She spoke with Catherine's relatives, studied files. She employed up to 7 detectives at the time. She reconstructed the timeline of events. She even tracked down Bruno's old 1984 Volkswagen Golf. And she discovered something interesting. The wheel wrench had been replaced and didn't match the original equipment. Now, a forensic examination did reveal that the original wrench for that model could have been the murder weapon that caused Christina's head wounds. She even had her husband play victim, put him in the car trunk to trust her conclusion. Now, I will tell you that doesn't surprise me, because when we had the Karen Reed trial, I made Doc be my victim and was measuring car height and everything. So I understand her doing that. And kudos to her husband for getting in the car trunk. Okay. Right, Doc? You're my test dummy.
Yes, test dummy. Yep. I got hit by that tail light quite a few times.
You did not. So she, in her book, which again, I won't share my German, it's The End of Days of Doubt. She argued the thesis that Moldy Muffin, who had been acquitted by the court, had indeed deleted his wife. Her theory was that he had beaten his wife with a hard object, the lug wrench, transported her body home as a wrapped package. Now, the controversy, because we got to be fair here, Doc Fowler says don't get in the suitcase because of Sarah's.
I threw all the suitcases away.
Ebling was one of the few voices that questioned the media, so she had gone after the media in the narrative and pointed to the defects in the case. But the media harassed her for her contrarian position. And she was controversial. So we got to share that, because she later was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 5 months suspended imprisonment for defrauding a mechanic of 250,000 francs. So in summary, Trix Ebling was not Moldy Muffin's lawyer, but rather a private citizen and a fellow lawyer who independently investigated this case and concluded he was guilty, contradicting the court's acquittal. But what happened with the court? Based on this new evidence that the prosecutor filed for a third trial in 1996, they said the problem is the car had changed hand multiple times since 1985, and there's no way to prove when the wheel wrench had been replaced or who had done it. So on September 29th, 1997, the Berne Court of Cassation rejected the prosecutor's request for reopening the case. They found the new evidence insufficient and noted that too much time had passed since the original crime. The court essentially said, enough is enough. We're done. The prosecutor's final defeat in the case that consumed years of his career. The case was officially closed in 1998, exactly 13 years after Christina's murder. Now, some of the key differences between the U.S. and the Swiss system have changed because evidence standards, the U.S., we have the Dalbert standard for scientific evidence, which likely would have excluded their flawed forensic report on that Hawaiian toast, and it would have come out a whole lot sooner. U.S. discovery rules might have exposed these problems. The U.S., we use that pure jury trial rather than the mixed courts of 1985. This could have prevented the judicial bias that contaminated that first trial. Something to think about.
That's a good point. Fella brought out. Do they not have double jeopardy?
Well, now that was something I didn't even look into. I think because they were going on the facts that it was a legal mistake, I guess they thought they could go ahead and try him that second time.
Well, Irish Amy said that they don't have that in the UK now.
Okay. So, I mean, and they might not in Switzerland. That was one thing that was a good question.
Mm-hmm.
So the U.S. adversarial system is stricter with evidence rules. They would have caught that forensic issue. But we've had forensic look at the case that we discussed there in Denver with that one DNA expert that was making up stuff. So it does happen. But also in the US, we are more experienced with managing high profile cases with the media interference. I think Switzerland wasn't used to that at all. So the forensic evidence was flawed, and there was competent US defense counsel. They would have demolished it. You get one of the lawyers over here, they would have tore it to bits.
Mm-hmm.
And because without that stomach contents timeline, there is some significant questions. But the forensic evidence was due to it being demolished and gone. That was really why he got out. And this case actually did make a lot of changes for their Swiss criminal justice. Jury trials were abolished partly due to this case. Forensic medicine standards were reformed. Investigative procedures were improved. Courts learned to better manage their high-profile cases. Prosecutor Heinz Walter Matthijs, I've said that poor man's name so many different ways tonight. Sorry, Heinz, made a crucial point. He said, if DNA analysis had been as well known and researched in 1985 as it is today, this crime would not have gone unpunished. The case occurred just as forensic science was evolving. Today's investigators would have DNA analysis of the nylon cords, the garbage bag, advanced blood spatter analysis, digital timeline reconstruction, better preserving of the trace evidence. So even though his acquittal was based on proven innocence, but it was on constitutional doubt. The fundamental principles that protect defendants from wrongful conviction when evidence falls short of certainty. Now, sadly, in Switzerland, they have a 30-year statute of limitations on murder cases. So in 2015, the case expired. So even if they found DNA evidence now, they couldn't convict anybody, and that's wrong. So Christina got victimized twice. Her parents are both gone. They never got justice for their daughter. They got their name dragged through the mud by the reporter. And that's really the tragedy of what happened to Christine. Because you almost, here in the States, we'd be looking for that DNA genealogy and we'd be saying, dude, you did it, but over there, it expired. So this really, sometimes the system works exactly as it's supposed to. And sometimes we just see what happens to the victims and their family, that they're left without any kind of closure. It breaks my heart because Christina really, her death is never going to have the answers. They allowed her killer to escape justice. I want to know what you guys think. I think he did it, but that's just my opinion. And I don't have a legal, license here.
Yeah, but
I'm not an attorney.
Was there not just to play the other side of the coin? Was there a smoking gun?
Well, to me, I think the smoking gun was he had her moped license that he said that she had taken off with her. Why was he carrying that around?
Yeah.
He, and I mean, for him, 6 days later to tell her parents, hey, I got a girlfriend and I'm going to move out in a year. And I got to leave right now because I'm hooking up with her.
I mean, if you look at the case, there is just a ton of circumstantial evidence.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, Katrina.
So
I think if the case would have happened in the United States, even in 1985, I think he would have been found guilty. Because I think for one thing, our evidence gathering was better here in the United States. I don't think they would have had this fiasco with the Hawaiian toast. That was just a misstep hugely, So I think Christina would have got justice, and she deserved justice. I mean, the fact that he was seen cleaning the basement of the house the morning after she disappeared. I mean, I think if you would have had a good attorney, if you would have had Jerry Spence, I don't know if any of y'all know who Jerry Spence was. He just passed away in August. He would have been my attorney of choice in any matter. He was from Wyoming, and he was a storyteller, and he was a great attorney. He's the one that fought for Karen Silkwood's family and won money. He was a really cool attorney, and but it was his storytelling, and I think he could have provided a story that, truthfully, they would have had Moldy Muffin here so locked up we'd never have seen the man again. And I think that would have been good, because my questions is, if it wasn't Moldy Muffin, who was it? Because the court ruled out her parents because they had alibis. And if it was a third party, who?
Yeah, they're if looking at the case, it's just there isn't anybody else.
Hey, Barbara.
The milkman? I don't know.
I mean, she was well liked. She was well known in the community. She had her sewing business. She had her own little shop. I just don't, she wasn't the one having affairs. It was him. They'd only been married for 2 years. And I mean, why would he have not noticed coming home to a crime scene? Because he was cleaning up the next day. So why? Something just does not make sense. He was cleaning that basement. He had her moped license that he said she left with.
Yeah,
and
like I said, there's way too much circumstantial evidence not to come to some kind of conclusion that,
yeah,
he was, but then, the whole thing is he guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt? Who knows? I mean,
well, the blood stains on the mattress, I think we definitely can say that she died in the house.
Oh yeah.
That's not a question.
Yeah.
Which kind of defeats the purpose of that other lawyer's book, where she said she thought that he had killed her someplace else and driven her body home, which that didn't make sense. She did all that research, but to me, that was her failing in her book. I think, she was deleted there at home. I don't know why. I don't know if he didn't get rid of the body because he was being watched too much and he was hoping that they would stop watching him. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. To me, it's just how, if you're the killer, how silly to put the person in the freezer in your own basement. I mean, I'm not saying that he didn't do it. I mean, I'm just saying, why would you? That's like idiocy of epic proportions.
Yeah. And if somebody did it to put the blame on him, who?
Yeah.
Who would be after him? Ask yourself, did the new girlfriend's family have something against him? Did one of his ex-girlfriends have something against him? I don't know. Something's crazy about that story. I'll tell you that.
And that relationship doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. If she was from an affluent family,
why on earth were they letting her mess with him?
Well,
He was just...
yeah.
you know, and the witness who saw her on the moped, was that a credible witness? We don't know. His alibi for Saturday, too many holes. He had 3 affairs. So who knows? But let's go ahead and talk about our missing people. Pammy agrees with you, Doc. We have much confusion on this case. And like I said, this case, because it happened in the same year that Katrina's aunt was murdered, remember, I have a channel in our server. Go in and read some of the stuff that we've put in there. If you've got ideas for Katrina on her aunt's case, put them in there. Let's get the conversation going, because we need to find out what happened to her. Like Christina, at least we don't have a time limit, because they won't even investigate this case anymore for Christina. And that,
yeah, that doesn't even make sense. I'm sorry.
Sadly, with
you commit murder, you're on the hook for life. You know.
Well, the sad thing for Katrina Mowry is that they've never investigated. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, well.
I mean, Dallas, we're calling you out. You guys didn't do a good job. We don't know why. And if you'd like to come on and tell us, we would love to hear your interpretation of what happened, because so far you're really not on our good list. I got to get me a map and start putting the people that cause issues, so we know to stay away from these people. But on our missing people, stay alert. You could save a life. Remember the faces that we're going to share when you're out in public, at the store, or on any kind of transit, plane, train, or automobile. Stay alert to your surroundings. Put those cell phones down, people. Human trafficking and missing person cases happen everywhere, and victims often hide in plain sight. And you might see someone's missing family member. Someone might disappear voluntarily, but then end up in a dangerous situation. Others never had a choice. So trust your instincts. If you recognize someone from today's cases or witness something suspicious that you get that feeling going down the back of your neck, contact the authorities immediately. Don't assume someone else is calling. Use your vigilance. It could save a life. If for some reason you have a fear of contacting the police, we have an email, tips4, the number 4, trialjunkiesunited@gmail.com. We'll pass the information along. So our first person is DeMonte Bluelegs. He's 14 years old, you guys. He disappeared January 30th of 2025 from the Crow Creek Reservation in South Dakota. He has brown eyes and brown hair. He's 6'1" and 280 pounds. He was last seen in the Crow Creek area. So if you have spotted DeMonte anywhere, please contact the Crow Creek Tribal Police at 605-245-2351, because he's only a 14-year-old child. Next, we have Gerald Wynham. He's W-Y-E-N-A, like hyena with a W. Hyena. He's 34. He disappeared from Toppenish, Washington on April the 26th. This is an older case, 1922, you guys. He's from the Yakima Nation. He's 5'8", 160 to 180 pounds. He has shoulder-length brown hair, brown eyes. He was with a friend, and he mentioned they were walking around Toppenish, Washington, and he usually keeps in contact with the family regularly, but no one has heard or seen from him since that date in 1922 or 2022. He's the father of 4 children, and he's the brother to 9 of his siblings. And his mother, Julie Andy Jim, is really worried about him. So please contact the National Yakima Tribal Police at 509-865-2933. Next, we have Jose Martinez. He's 39. He last spoke with his family on September 17th. He was at the Allen Moore Hospital in Tacoma, Washington on the 15th of this month. And then 2 days later, he spoke with his family. He's 6'4", 195 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. He was wearing, at the time he was last seen on the 15th, tan Levi pants, a red polo shirt, gray Nike shoes, and he had a gray hat that said Savage on the front. Now, they've actually issued an endangered persons alert for him, the Washington State Police. So please, if you have seen him, contact 911. His family is very concerned about him. Roxanne Little, she is 31. She's been missing since August 22nd of 2025 from Wasagamok, Manitoba, Canada. She has brown eyes, black, long hair. She's 5'2". They said a slim build. She was last seen at a family member's residence and hasn't been seen since. They said it's possible she could have gone toward Winnipeg. They don't know, but contact the Island Lake RCMP at 204-456-2290 or 1-800-222-8477 for Crime Stoppers. Please show my mods some love. Fowla and Irish Amy and Lazy River. They keep us all safe and sound and tucked in here so we can hang out and have a good time.
Thank you, guys.
The Christine murder case is ultimately about the limits of criminal justice. Sometimes the system works exactly as designed, protecting defendants from wrongful conviction even when they appear guilty, but it leaves the families and their victims and the families without closure. And Moldy Muffin may well have deleted his wife. The circumstantial evidence is compelling, but may well have isn't the standard for criminal conviction. Constitutional doubt protected him, as it should protect all defendants facing life imprisonment on uncertain evidence. The real tragedy isn't just Christina's death, it's the investigative failures that happened with prosecutorial overreach may have allowed her killer to escape justice, entirely destroying the lives of her grieving parents in their final days because they got no justice for their daughter. They got their name dragged through the mud. You know, put your thoughts in there, what you think. This one really is perplexing. Remember, every killer depends on our silence, you guys. Please don't give it to them. If you know something, speak up, because that wasn't a mannequin. It never is. Remember, somebody knows something. Someone always does. Silence is betrayal. That's our hashtag. If you have a story that requires our attention, please get in touch with us using the email address trialjunkiesunited@gmail.com. I really thank you guys for taking the time to come hang out with us tonight. If you do appreciate what we do, you can buy us a coffee. But if your funds are limited, please don't. You can support us by watching, sharing our videos, making comments after the videos have been done cooking with YouTube. I don't know all the mojo. That's Doc's thing. But, hit that like button. These algorithms work behind the scenes, and that helps us. Hit the thumbs up. I know that all that's boring stuff, but it does help. So until next time, you guys, stay informed, stay compassionate, seek justice. Love you all, and we'll see you on Thursday for our Thursday edition of MMIP and see what we come up with to find more people. I love you. Remember, this case is unsolved, but it's now closed. So our thoughts are with Christine and her family. And you guys all have a good night. Ciao. Love ya.
Lady Justice used to stand so tall, blindfold on, she'd hear us all. Rich or poor didn't matter then. Truth would speak, justice would win. But somewhere along this winding road, the scales grew heavy and the system slowed down. Money talks and power plays while victims wait for better days. Where has justice gone? has justice gone? Predators get off easy while families mourn what can't be fixed. The courtroom doors swing both ways, but not for those who can't pay. We must fight for those we've lost, count every tear, pay every price. Stand tall when systems fail, seeking truth behind the veil. Where has justice gone? Where did she flee? The blindfold slipping. Now we see the game is rigged, the deck is stacked for those who can't fight back. But where has justice gone? Protect the innocent, protect the child, no matter race or creed or color, rich or poor, it shouldn't matter. Justice is what we're after for all. Affluence can't buy a free pass when children's safety is what we ask. Every child deserves the same protection in justice' name. From the courthouse to the highest court, justice feels like a last resort. But we won't stop, we won't give in until justice lives again. We'll bring justice home. Make her see that equal treatment. The key, fix the scale, straighten the stack for those who can't fight back. We'll bring justice home. Lady Justice, hear our call. Stand for one, stand for all. Put the blindfold back in place. Give us truth, give us grace.